TGC Requiem back with more Death Shadow Jund. Got a 3-0 league start here. Hoping to turn it into something of value. Alright, so looks like we're on the draw again. I don't know. I feel like I would keep this. I don't know. It's not great, but I don't know. I feel like, especially with this build where I'm more focused on trying to be able to hit those turn 3 Lilianas, that I kind of like having the 4 lands. Yeah, so we keep. The opponent kept 6. Start on island. So probably either, that could be quite a few things actually, but like, you know, Merfolk, Mono Blue Tron, hit the Liliana, so we're feeling good here. We're definitely gonna, well, so we probably should lead on Inquisition, but since we don't have anything to do next turn, maybe we can let the opponent play out their turn and then Inquisition them next turn right before we start Liliana-ing. Silvergill Adept. Punished. Revealing Harbinger. So I say punished because like the card you're supposed to take when you Inquisition Merfolk is Silvergill Adept. So we decided not to play the Inquisition turn 1, and then we get punished by them basically getting a free card off the Silvergill. So we're just going to get probably an Overgrown Tomb sideways here. So actually we're going to be a little lucky to have kept this land heavy hand too, considering the opponent is likely sitting on some Spreading Seas action. So Inquisition our opponent. So actually no Spreading Seas. Harbinger, Lord of Atlantis, Vendilion Click. And I think for me it's pretty clear, especially with them on the play, to take the Click. We are really strongly hoping to carry this game with Liliana right now. And so we want to make sure we can avoid anybody being able to get at her, or even like the Vendilion Click causing us to redraw, losing the Liliana, and then we don't really even have any creatures to worry about the Harbingers yet. In Lord of Atlantis, there's no Spreading Seas to make the combat lethal or relevant, so I think we just take the Vendilion Click. And then we're probably just gonna play Bloodstained Mire and pass. Plan to go for another sideways land. We have 2 shocks in hand, so we're probably just gonna go for a sideways Blood Crypt here at end step. Opponent plays the Aboro and one of the Harbingers. And again, we're just gonna go get a Blood Crypt. Oh no, we got a Swamp. So why did we go get the Swamp? Because we're already at a low life total, and a downtick Liliana at this point is only going to handle 1 creature. What's going on here? Okay, we're doing this at our opponent's end step. So, okay. So basically, we know we're going to Street Wraith. So we get the Swamp, hoping to maybe draw a Fatal Push, and then because we're already at a pretty low life total, Liliana's only going to probably get to kill 1 creature before she dies, and so at this point we're just trying to preserve our life total a little bit. So we Street Wraith into a Street Wraith into a Traverse. So we're actually in an interesting spot now. So the plan was to Liliana, and I think we still do, but the difference here is with Traverse, we can traverse for a shadow and we have Temur Battle Rage. And so I think if we play out the Liliana here, kill one of their creatures, their opponent is going to kill our Liliana, which turns on Traverse for our following turn, and then we can traverse into a Death Shadow, and with careful life management possibly be able to Battle Rage back for lethal, because they're probably going to attack us. I would think that they're probably going to be in a position where they're going to go wide and attack. And even if they don't, we can just then play Grim Flayer to kind of help stabilize. So I'm feeling actually like that is the cleanest route. Of course, we got to just hope that they don't hit more of their lords, because that could be problematic. Okay, so it looks like I considered just jamming the Grim Flayer and traversing right there, and then came to the realization that I just talked through now, which is more clear to me now having played that. Alright, so not surprising, Silvergill Adept dies. Harbinger offers more devotion if they hit a Master of Waves, so Harbinger is going to probably attack the Liliana, and then I suppose it just depends on what they do here. Curse Catcher. Well, that's unfortunate. That makes the stated goal a bit weaker, since Curse Catcher can blow up potentially the Traverse. And a Lord of Atlantis. Yep, so it goes after the opponent goes after the Liliana, and that's going to turn on our Traverse. Interesting, and now we draw an Inquisition. So our opponent is looking at us with 7 damage. If we fetch for a shock, we're just dead. Well, I guess we're not just dead. We're dead if they have a Spreading Seas. So the Lord of Atlantis could indicate they have a Spreading Seas. We don't have any removal. They have to assume we probably have some removal, though. We could Inquisition. So I guess we have kind of a couple lines here. We could probably Inquisition. We could Inquisition, Traverse, and Death Shadow. We could play a Sideways Stomping Ground. The Death Shadow would be able to block one of these creatures so long as they don't get a Spreading Seas. And if they were to attack, we're not able to do lethal back. We could also just try and traverse for a Death Shadow and play the Grim Flayer. That allows us to potentially trade, but I really want to see, like I said, if they have a Spreading Seas, we're in real big trouble here with our hand, so I think we have to actually Inquisition them. So we're actually playing out of Verdant Catacombs, so probably the plan is just to... The plan here is, this gives us more control over our life total if we're going to make this play for a Death Shadow. This is funny. So I'm thinking we're dead to I'm thinking we're dead to Spreading Seas, and I wasn't even at 7 life. I think in my mind I knew that I had 4 lands from when I played this previously. Um, so yeah, so we put ourselves down to 7. So I think we just need to Inquisition. Traverse is more important, but I don't think it really matters here. So if we play the Inquisition and he curse catches it, or they curse catch it, we just tap a mana and it's gone, and then we can cast the next one. Either way you slice it, we have the 4 mana to cast Inquisition, Traverse, and Shadow through a curse catcher. Doesn't really matter the order here. So we get a Shadow. Now we're going to cast Inquisition, Harbinger, and Master of the Pearl Trident. So Harbinger scares the heck out of me here, because if our opponent draws a land and we do plan to go for a lethal attack with Temur Battle Rage, they can just flash it in and kind of wipe us out. The concern is whether or not Master of the Pearl Trident just kills us. And so if we think about, if they cast a Master of the Pearl Trident, 2. So I guess it would be a 3/3, a 3/3, and a 4/4. So they would be attacking for 6. 10, we would have the Death Shadow to block. So we could block the 4/4, we'd take 6, go down to 1. So we're good to just take the Harbinger here, and we kind of just hope the opponent doesn't draw a Spreading Seas, or we're done. So opponent plays out the Master of the Pearl Trident here. Alright, so it looks like they attack with everything. They're holding up 1 mana. So we're going to block there. I suppose if they have a Vapor Snag, we're done. They would have used Dismember, I feel like, there to kill the Death Shadow if they had it, so that's not really a concern. So I think we're pretty much clear. I mean, they could have a Vapor Snag, I suppose, but I think we're clear to just go for this here. Even if they block, we're looking at 24 damage with 3 blocking, 21. And we got there. Excellent. Alright, so that gives us a 1-0. Magic is tough. So you have like all these scenarios, and you sit there and you think through the scenarios, and then you come up with other scenarios, and you're on this limited clock trying to come up with the right answer. Kind of hard sometimes. So let's take a peek at the sideboard. We pulled out a couple Street Wraith, we pulled out a couple Liliana of the Veil, pulled out 3 hand disruption spells, left 1 Temur Battle Rage in, pulled a Traverse. This is because they typically bring in Relic of Progenitus, and so potentially it's a little weaker. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. The Lilianas we pulled because we brought in Liliana the Last Hope, and so we just don't want too many 6s in this matchup, or too many 3-drops rather in this matchup. Inquisition and Thoughtseize. We want to keep a couple Thoughtseizes in for Master of the Waves, and what am I trying to say here? The Inquisition is the other cut because we just only want a handful of disruption. We don't need the full 8 in this matchup, but it is still good in the matchup, good enough to keep 5 in, and we're also going to bring in a couple Collective Brutality, which help go at any spells that might be concerning. And then Traverse again just because of concerns with Relic. So again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cards. So if we look at our sideboard, we would have brought in 2 Collector Brutality. Again, they can go after creatures. They can go after spells in case we're worried our opponent has something that might be problematic, like a Dismember or Vapor Snag. The big reason I bring it in is Master of Waves. It's a kill spell that's not red. Kill Master Waves, and it also potentially can give you reach in some scenarios. Terminate and Abrupt Decay, just extra removal. 2 Anger of the Gods, and Liliana. Anger of the Gods is a little risky in these matchups. Sometimes if they can get a couple lords out, you can't get them with the Anger. But we run enough Hand Disruption and removal, spot removal, that when we go to cast an Anger, we should be okay with being able to plow through 2 lords, which is all you need. As long as they don't have more than 2 lords, your Anger should get the job done. Alright, so probably shouldn't keep this. No Hand Disruption, really not much of any removal. Suppose we do, the one positive that we have here is Spreading Seas, and who knows, this deck has a lot of Merfolk have been, I shouldn't say a lot of, some Merfolk have been running 8 Seas, so they run like a 1-drop Spreading Seas that doesn't draw a card. So maybe we actually keep this, and just that way we're protected or insulated against Spreading Seas. I think that's what we want to do here. Minamo, I love that land. Ooh, and another land. Excellent. We have all the mana in the world. So we're going to go to Stomping Ground. We're just kind of trying to set up a little bit for Anger of the Gods. And then we're going to fire off, probably go get a Swamp. Yeah. So opponent plays a Mutavault. We draw another land. So we're going to play this land out, and I think we're just going to we can't Abrupt Decay the Mutavault. This Vial trigger just makes me wonder if we shouldn't blow up the Aether Vial. The reason I'm thinking this now is we only have 1 removal spell. We only have so many answers to Aether Vial. But we only have 1 removal spell, and Aether Vial is going to allow them to start throwing out creatures pretty fast and wide on us. And so if we could take out the Aether Vial, that slows them down a little bit. I mean, we only have 2 Anger of the Gods, so hoping to draw into those in time is probably a little risky. So I think we're going to get a Blood Crypt. Take out that Vial. And they did not use it, so that's awesome. They could have had a Curse Catcher there, perhaps. And here comes the Spreading Seas. So this is where I'm starting to feel a little better about those traverses. Oh my gosh, more land. This is brutal. Sometimes you just draw all the lands. Overgrown Tomb. And we're going to cycle Street Race, so we're just going for Death Shadow here now. Traverse. Go get another land. Oh no, sorry. So we Street Wraith there to get to 4 so we could traverse for presumably a Death Shadow, especially with Street Wraith as a combat trick, yeah. And then we'll just jam that Shadow down. So even if they have a Dismember here, we have Street Wraith to grow our shadow, outsize it. Another Spreading Seas. Really feeling pretty happy to have kept this hand, all things considered. So now I think I'm just a little nervous with this Lord of Atlantis, so I just want to try and draw some removal and get another land. So many land. Well, we'll be able to traverse and swamp for a Death Shadow. I guess we can see what our opponent does. And another land. This is unbelievable. Wow. I don't even remember this being so terrible. Selective memory, I guess. So we actually, because we have the big shadow, we're going to play the Overgrown Tomb upright. This puts our shadow at an 8/8. If we attack, we're representing Battle Rage, so that's like 16. The opponent, if I do that, the opponent can just attack back for lethal. But we do have access to post-combat traverse into another shadow, which doesn't matter because they still have lethal. I mean, what are we going to do? We've drawn 16 lands. Certainly not blocking, so... Wow, they actually blocked. That feels like a really bad block to me. Maybe they're just concerned about removal. I could see that. Let's get another shadow. Sitting on 4 lands. And another Spreading Seas. I shouldn't complain about lands with all these Spreading Seas, but man, I'm to the point where I have one more shock. I guess I have a forest too. Relic, which is kind of irrelevant to me. So they must just be... yeah, I mean, they're certainly not going to attack with their Mutavault in there. Harbinger to bounce the Death Shadow. Sure. So probably just going to play the Death Shadow. Well, I guess that changes things. So the opponent has 2 cards in hand. I feel like if they would have had another Lord, they'd have just played it there. So they're probably not on a Lord, because that would have just killed us with the Mutavaults the next turn. I mean, they could still draw a Lord, but if they draw a Lord... Well, yeah, I guess if they draw a Lord, they're still going to kill us this way, because they could still activate a Mutavault and attack with the Harbinger and the Mutavault. So... I think we have to play the Liliana here and just make him sacrifice him, her, they. I know I'm terrible about this. I'm trying to be better. People other than guys play Magic. So Swamp, Liliana, down tick. Do we attack for 8? Suppose we do. We're dead to that anyway, right? So if we attack, the opponent attacks back with 2 Mutavaults, that just gives us a lethal attack back the following turn. So I think that's what we do. Alright, so if the opponent draws a Lord, we're dead either way, but by putting the pressure on, this kind of makes them not want to attack with Mutavault unless they have lethal. Harbinger, gonna bounce the other Death Shadow. Well, that's problematic. And I assume this is going to come right at me. Yes. Okay, so Fatal Push is good. But we only have 2 black mana. We can't fetch for anything but a forest. So I think, obviously we'll uptick with Liliana discarding a land. We can play Death Shadow. Yeah, so if we play Death Shadow and hold up the Fatal Push, if they attack with everything, we can eat one of the creatures, kill one of the creatures, take 2 damage down to 1, and then we have a lethal strike back. So I think that's clear as to what we need to do here. We're going to play out the land, because we don't want them thinking like we haven't drawn any lands. They certainly can't imagine we've drawn this many lands. So again, we're still just dead to a Lord. They relic the graveyards, but again, it's not really relevant based on what's going on for us. It's relevant for them. So Mutavault there is pretty big because that gives them extra creatures, but they can't attack with the Mutavaults this turn. Or the new one at least. Marrow Regery. Tidebinder Mage. So the Tidebinder Mage is going to enter. The Marrow Regery is going to have it tapped down to the Death Shadow. And then the opponent is going to attack with a Harbinger, but we have the Fatal Push. They can't activate Mutavault at this point. But then they pretty much have lethal next turn. Almost nothing we can do about it. So, drew a piece of removal in the nick of time. That's unbelievable. Absolutely unbelievable. So, we downtick, the opponent sacrifices a creature, they can't activate Mutavault. So actually, if we play out the Verdant Catacombs, right, we can get our Death Shadow to a 12/12, which represents lethal. So if we downtick, they sacrifice the Tidebinder Mage. I guess I suppose they could tap the mana for Mutavault, activate Mutavault, and be tapped, but they could sacrifice that. They still don't have the ability to what am I trying to think here? If we play the Verdant Catacombs, downtick, they sacrifice. So say they sacrifice the Mutavault. They don't have a Lord that gives them Island Walk. So that gives them 2 4 creatures, but they're going to have to trade one off because we're representing lethal. And then they have 3 attackers back, but we'll play a Death Shadow, maybe representing 1 more removal spell. Because we don't have to crack these fetches, so we'd still be at 3 life theoretically. And so long as we block the Tidebinder Mage. Well, no, I guess it doesn't matter. If they actually attack, we don't have anything. This is just what they might. I'm just trying to think what they might think. If they attack with 2 Mutavaults and a Marrow Regery, right? Because presumably they'll block with the Tidebinder Mage when I attack them. We'll play a Death Shadow. So they'll be coming back at me with 2 Mutavaults and a Marrow Regery. So we could block the Mutavault, kill the Mutavault, and they would only have 2 damage to us. So it may not be lethal for them on the way back, in their perspective. So yeah, so we downtick here. activate Mutavault. They're going to sacrifice the Mutavault. So we're going to play out the Death Shadow, play out a land, and then we're just going to attack to try and eat up the creature. And really, the only out we have here is really our opponent just like screwing up or being afraid to do anything. So our opponent didn't block, and they have no cards in hand. We just won. So maybe they were worried about a removal spell or something, but they did not block. We just crack these 2 fetches. We don't even have to go get any lands. That's 12 points of damage. Better to be lucky than good. Fail to find. That's lethal. Wow. Okay, so at that point, that puts us at 2-0 in the game, and that puts us at 4-0-8-3 in the league. Got one more match to go. I actually have to run some errands, but I'm going to try and load these up here and get them up soon, but hopefully I'll have the 5th one up tonight as well at some point. In the meantime, hopefully you enjoyed.